Alright, hey guys, I wanted to do another quick video. My book for the Lemuria stuff did finally arrive, but I haven't had a chance to read through a good portion of it yet, so I don't want to make that review until I've read a bit more. So instead, I wanted to talk a bit more about adventuring in general and like the equipment and stuff. And there's going to be a couple like sort of awkward cuts as I go and get more stuff from, off frame, I guess, to talk about. Because, like in movies and stuff, you never see, like your adventurers wearing the same stuff you would expect a soldier to. I know like a couple HEMA groups especially did video on like why you want a helmet, because, you never see helmets in adventure films. Like in the Lord of the Rings trilogy and now the Hobbit trilogy that's in the making, like none of the main characters wear helmets. And, in movies, it's because you want to be able to get a nice shot of the actor's face, and in books, you can't relate to a character as much if, their face is, just a big thing of metal that's protecting them. You can't describe, you grimacing at your enemy if, your grimace is in behind a faceplate. It doesn't do anything. But, and, that sort of stuff, even though, a helmet, if you're going into battle, is really important, because, you could, like, get hit in the head and die. It's actually very easy to do that. And one of, like, really the only ways to die instantly, because if you get, like, hit in the arm, you can keep fighting for a while at least. But, like something in the head or the heart or one of the few wounds that could kill you instantly. So, but helmets are also very awkward to like carry around, which is why I don't actually have my helmet, because I didn't want to dig through my boxes to find all the stuff that go with it and then bring it up here and put it all on. Like, how much of a hassle it is. So it makes sense that an adventurer wouldn't want to carry that around, because you can't just have your helmet. You also have to have like a padding or something under your helmet, because just metal on like just your hair or just your flesh is going to really be uncomfortable. So you also have to have like thick padding between you and the helmet, which makes your head very big. So like this is of course a little mini statue of a Greek helmet. It shows you just like how big it is. I don't know if you can see it from back there, but I mean there's like a noticeable difference in where the faceplate is, because that's got to project out of your face again. And in the style of Greek helmets, or like traditional, like horn, sword, and sorcery helmets, you'll have ornaments on top. It's also going to make your head very big and weigh it down. And that's one of the things you'll notice, or at least, I noticed when wearing the helmet, is you really feel that weight when you have, steel just sitting like a steel bowl, a thick one, with more padding, is you can feel the extra encumbrance. So being able to, just look around, especially if you have a back plate like mine does, you can't look up, and, cheek plates are going to hit your armor if you're looking down and stuff, or to the sides. So it, it's in a battlefield it doesn't bother you so much, but if you have to like climb up a mountain, being able to look up would be helpful. And so not having to carry around or wear this massive helmet, it's going to help you. So if you're going into a battlefield and they know that, or they're going into like a gladiatorial arena and they know that, having a helmet's going to be big. But if you are adventuring where you don't want to carry a lot, because that's going to weigh you down, slow you down, or especially if you have to do something that you don't know if there's going to be enemies, but there's going to be like other obstacles, like you have to climb or you have to swim. Like the most weight that you can leave behind is very helpful. So helmets, while they are really protective, it makes sense that not every adventurer in a fantasy world would want one, just because of all the equipment you have to carry. And even when you're not wearing them, it's going to get annoying, just because take up a lot of space. And like a shield is flat. You can put stuff on top of it, it's easy to store. But you can't do that with a helmet. You have to have it sort of in that shape. So it takes up a lot of space as well. So I mean, so again, adventurers might not want a helmet just because of how difficult they are to carry and how they'll encumber you trying to do like different tasks and stuff. Something else, bows. I mean, so like in most RPGs, you know, a longbow is really strong and powerful because, you know, in real life, a longbow is really strong and powerful. So like any ranged character, you know, whether it's a fighter or a ranger or a rogue, anyone using long distance weapons is, you know, even in first level, getting a longbow is really easy. So in D&D campaigns and stuff, longbows are going to be everywhere. But I mean, this, I mean, obviously not real. It's a little PVC, really weak thing for LARP. And this isn't even as tall as an actual longbow would be. Because an actual longbow would traditionally be taller than the person using it. So, I mean, a real longbow for me would be like this tall maybe. So, but again, they might not have the same curvature. This is actually going to be pretty deep. But again, I mean, you can see right away the problems with carrying this. It's just so big. You might say, you know, they'll wear them on their back. But again, doing that, first off, you can't do much else. You can't put, you know, if you put your quiver on your back, that's going to be awkward. You can't have a sword on whatever hip you have it going wise. So if you have something you wear on your left hip, you can't have the bow. If you have it on the right, then if you have your bow this way, same thing. Also, you don't see it with this because this is weak and has the deep curve, since it's, you know, just a made out of PVC. But a strong wooden bow that's shallower, like an actual one, because I have used them. I don't have one on hand. The bowstring broke, but that's a different story. You know, it's going to be really tight on your chest, so it would get painful wearing it a long time, and it could like stop. You won't be able to breathe as much. It's going to be annoying. And then arrows. So this quiver only has 6 arrows, and quiver fell off. But so you can see, even with those 6 arrows, it's pretty full. You're not going to have a whole bunch. You could probably get 2, maybe 3 dozen arrows, which, you know, for a battle might be okay, especially if you have, you know, spare quivers with more arrows behind the line. But if you're going on a big journey, like if I remember correctly in Lord of the Rings, it was a year, you know, you're going to need a lot more arrows, and these are really difficult. It's like this string, you know, you could put it, you could theoretically put it on your back. This is a little small for me, but I mean, you get the idea. But if you, anytime you're not wearing it, if you hang it down, your arrows spill out. So being able to keep all your arrows in one place for especially a long journey, you know, it's going to be really difficult. Short bows, you could do better. I don't have any of those on hand, but especially if you have like the horse bows that were used by like the Mongols and others in the steppes, where they actually had like a little, where their quiver had enough room so you could store it like you would sheath a sword. That could be doable, but like long bows, I mean, you just couldn't carry that with you if you're doing, you know, like your traditional adventuring. Of course, you know, you're thinking melee weapons. Okay, maybe you can't bring a bow, but you could still have your sling. You might be able to fit a smaller crossbow, just like you could fit the short bow. You know, everyone's going to have like your swords and your axes and stuff, but not big ones. I mean, this is a long sword, so officially it's like a two-hand weapon. You can use it one-handed, but it's really awkward to handle. So, you know, it's a nice two-handed sword. A great sword, which is, again, something most, you know, two-handed fighters in games like D&D are going to use, would get even bigger. So that would be up to here. So, you know, this, I mean, it's short enough that I can, you know, wear it at the hip. Shorter people might not. But you could strap it to your back. You can't really draw it that way. I mean, if you just fully extend, you can see you can't draw it on the back, but you know, if you have to just you know, climb up a mountain or whatever, it's doable. But again, that's still going to be awkward because you need to have it tight so it stays just on your back, in which case you wouldn't be able to bend, which is another thing with if you have your bow across your back like that. Or you can have it loose enough that it'll be able to bend, but then it's not standing on your back, it's slacking like that, so it's going to be hitting your leg if you try running or and if you're climbing, and that's just generally a bad idea, even if you have it sheathed, because the bottoms of the sheath was metal, so it would still, you know, be painful and generally not a good idea. Long ways, just because it's big, as you can see, I have to keep it up a bit so it's gonna bang into your elbows and stuff. It's still not a great way of carrying it around. But so two-handed weapons would be awkward, and something like an axe or a mace, which are heavier and you don't really have sheaths for them, so it's going to be even harder to carry around. That right off the bat, it wouldn't really work as well. But one-handed swords, like these, this one's a bit shorter. This is a LARP one, and this is, again, a real steel sort of scimitar, I guess. You know, these you can wear them at your hip, where this one has its actual sheath here. You don't have those problems, but you sort of have, if you're fighting, you have this awkward hand here. You can use it to balance if you need to, but you know, it's sort of out there, you know, just something that could easily get cut. So of course, you know, just using anything with just one hand is a bad idea. So most people would have a shield if they're in battle or a town watch or something, and I have a couple shields sort of out of frame, and I'll talk about that in a bit. Or you could dual wield. Dual wielding, I think, so this a nice dirk, you know, a nice something short enough that you can, you know, keep it defensively and stuff, you know, without getting in your way. You could use two swords, but I mean, it's a little more awkward because they're going to be getting in each other's way. But, you know, something like a nice long dagger like this would be you know, useful for dual wielding. Dual wielding is something that a lot of people have talked about. Lindy Beige, who I've referenced in a couple other videos, has done a couple on why they're stupid. But again, they're all focusing on battlefields. So yes, you might not be able to parry, you know, bows or a bunch of javelins, but if you're doing for adventuring, like we're talking about, where you maybe have, you know, the archer is always going to be a problem if you're dual wielding. Anytime you don't have a shield, bow and arrows or slings or crossbows are going to be a problem. But throwing weapons you could reasonably dodge out of or hit away. Hitting away might not be good because it's still going to bounce around, but throwing weapons aren't as big of a problem. And if we're assuming you're classic adventuring, you're not going against an army. You have, you know, a group of a half dozen bandits against you and two other adventurers. So then, even if they all have javelins, spreading out against, you know, all of you, and you could reasonably get around like that. So dual wielding, which I could talk about more if you want, is doable if you're doing, you know, an adventuring campaign or a LARP or whatever, or a movie or something where it's an adventure. But I still don't think it would be reasonable for a battlefield, but something, you know, adventuring, plus it's easy to carry. This is just another sheath that's really small. I mean, big enough pockets you could fit it in. You know, this is going to be easy to carry around, a lot easier than shields, like I'll talk about in a bit. And so dual wielding from an adventurer's perspective is actually a good idea. It allows you to use both hands, because plus having two weapons over weapon and shield is aggressive, but it works because, you know, you could attack from both angles, and, you know, you can't block both unless you have two weapons and stuff. And you could, you know, defend and strike, and there's all sorts of stuff on how to fight with two weapons. You look into fencing where you'll have like your main gauche and a rapier or something. So adventurers could make a lot of use of that. So that's something I think would work really well. And then shields. So shields are always really good because you can hold it out and block arrows, which is something you couldn't do with the dual wielding. But if you want to use a shield with a boss, which I personally prefer, you can't, do a lot with it. So say you want to, climb the mountain that I keep bringing up. You can't have this in your hand and grab onto the mountain. But the more observant of you, notice this strap, which you can use to wear the shield on your back. And yes, if you do this, you have used your hands again to climb or run or whatever. But it's still not great. It's still very encumbering because first off, again, you have loss of mobility. This one is not very tight. There's a good amount of slack, but I still can't bend all that well. Normally I can touch my toes, just fine. With this, just the way it sticks out, and especially having this bar, and it's not, or like the bolts sticking into my back, it's not great. And then also, like, if you need to run, your elbows are going to smash into this. This one's not long enough, but if you have a bigger one or your strap is a little more slack, you could potentially kick it. And also, it's still very big, and as you can see, mine hangs out a bit on my left, and that's going to happen. It's going to hang out on one side depending on how you wear it, and just because it's going to be wider than you. So, if you need to get in a doorway or something, and especially with the boss sticking out, you can't maneuver your way through small passages and stuff as well. But you could have a smaller shield, something like this. This is 18 inches across, so it's a little bigger than most traditional bucklers would. It's good at defending, especially if you hold it out, and there's a couple videos about bucklers which I can link to. So they're just a little easier, but because of this, you can't carry them as well. This is something you need to hold in your hand, pretty much. Some people have talked about how you can put it on the crossguard of your sword, and you can, but it's not that stable. So if you're going around town, it would work fine. But if you need to, sprint or climb or jump or swim, this thing can't go with you. It's not big enough that you can really strap on. This one, that one, since it has that nice modern metal tube, you could thread it in. But you couldn't do that with something, something actually, the tech they would have had. It can't really be carried as well. So this is the only time I can think of where I prefer something with straps. Like this foam fellow here, another LARPing one. This one's pretty beat up, because since it's just a rope or a leather strap, you still have full use of your hand. You can even use it to dual wield still. It won't be anywhere near as efficient as dual wielding, or I guess your offhand weapon won't be as efficient, and your shield probably won't either. But you could do it. But so in combat you could do that. If you have one big enough that you can fit your hand through, you might be able to shoot with it. I have tried that at a LARP, but of course those are a lot weaker than a actual medieval war bow. So I don't know if it would work as well with a with something, period. If you want to try that out, tell me. And so like I said, you could still climb or run. You can use a strap like that if you want to keep it on your back, but you can't use anything big. So this one, as you can see, is only foam, but because I have it hanging out so low here, it's already like it doesn't keep straight. So, and if you hold it properly there, you know, you still can't climb or reach, and it's gonna mess you up that way. And you really need something small if you want to do that. So like this other foam shield, this one is a punch, but imagine if it had straps. So like imagine I'm holding it like that. It's still not the best. It's catching on my upper arm there. So you still can use it. If you want to be able to have something that you can have strapped to your arm and still have full maneuverability, you need this. You need something like this, which is 18 inches or smaller, because if not, like it really has to only go on your forearm. It can't, once it reaches back anywhere past your elbow, it's going to stop you from having a full range of motion. So adventurers probably wouldn't have, you know, big heater shields or tower shields. They would really only be able to use small shields if they're using shields. So I know not a lot of movies don't portray it. Again, covering up your lead actor with a big slab of wood. Books don't use it for another reason that movies aren't, is it makes action boring. So if you have two people fighting with swords, you know, there's always action. But the moment that I can just go like this and not get hit because I have a nice shield in the way, action has stopped. So it builds tension in a way that, or it removes building tension, which is of course always good for action movies or books and all that stuff. So even though every, or almost every, you know, meat shield in D&D and stuff is going to have a shield, they don't work in adventuring. So I know a lot of thematic pieces like Barbarians of Lemuria, which I'll review once I finish reading, actually says in the rules most adventurers don't carry shields, which makes a lot of sense. And again, it's all about cumbrance and stuff. So armor, which I also didn't have to sort of demonstrate, is the same thing. If you're wearing heavy plate mail, you can't maneuver as well. It's going to weigh you down. If you're not wearing it, it's going to be even worse to carry around. So they would stick to lighter armors because you have to. You can't go adventuring in a full suit of armor. You have to stick to light stuff like chainmail. Maybe not even a full halberd, just like a vest or like a t-shirt of chainmail would work well. Some leather could work well, but the actual leather they would have to have would be very thick, not like the suede that I would use and do use in LARPs and stuff. So even that, like a full thing of leather, is going to get in the way. So you would have, like, again, a leather vest like I've shown in previous videos or something like that. You couldn't be armored up in order to be able to do the things an adventurer has to. And you couldn't pack as much either. So like in D&D, and especially old school D&D, you know, AD&D and stuff, where different monsters were immune to non-magical attacks, or, you know, got extra damage if you used a fire attack, so you would have like 3 different swords. You know, your normal magic sword, then you have one that does lightning damage, and you need a silver sword to fight undead and stuff. You couldn't carry around that much equipment and still climb or, you know, go through small passageways and stuff. You needed to be light. So you would have food for a while, water for a while, your gear, and that's about it if you actually wanted to be realistic. A big heavy pack, you know, could be used, but if you ever got attacked when you weren't expecting it, having to take all that off really quick and then grabbing your sword and buckler from it is going to make you open, so anyone could just run up and hit you before you're ready. Or if they have missile weapons, just pew, right off the back and kill you easily. So the more stuff you carry is going to be more a liability. And so I guess I just wanted to do this in quick defense of, Hollywood movies or fantasy books that, get a lot of crap, especially from other HEMA people, where that how unrealistic it is that they go win, without any armor or shield or even a backpack. When in reality, that makes a lot of sense, because if you need to go, up mountains or through dungeons and stuff, having all that stuff just isn't doable. So that's all I have for now. Give me a little bit, probably sometime next week, for me to reread through the Barbarians of Lemuria rulebook and a few of the short stories from the book I just got that takes place in the Lemuria setting, and I can have a video up reviewing that game, and I'll probably do that sometime next week, but no promises. So thanks for watching, you guys, and leave comments, ask questions about anything that you seem odd. I'll try to put a few links in that go into more stuff, since I sort of rapid fired through those weapons and shields and stuff. And if you have any video ideas, give me a direct message or leave it in the comments again, and thanks for watching.